Hello friends, today we will learn about a motivation which acts as very strong stimulant for your desire to learn more and in a better way. Let us learn the concept of motivation that will include the meaning, characteristics and types in the process. The origin of the term motivation lies in Latin word that says movere, meaning move or to energize. Just simple example if I give you of tea, we drink tea to get some energy to continue with our work. In a similar line, motivation also acts in this manner. Let us look at the definition given by Lindsay. Definition says that motivation is not just for initiating your learning, but it continues till you accomplish your learning in a successful manner. Let us analyze the definition that will help you get more clarity. Let us look at this figure. Force is equal to motives is equal to individual's needs and wants. This means force ultimately is hidden in individuals' needs and wants. Now those forces can be different kind of forces which every individual may have in a unique way. These are called motives that would help in an action by an individual. Now let us look at the definition given by Coach. If you read this definition very carefully, you will find it is very similar to that of the earlier definition we have analyzed. Now here Coach is saying that it is a condition of an individual, internal condition of an individual that says the individual what to do, how to complete the given task and what is the meaning of a successful task. Let us analyze these examples in the context of the definitions we have learned. First example is about winning an Olympic. We all know how prestigious this competition is for every country. Unless and until an individual taking part in Olympics is motivated, winning is very difficult. Similarly, in the second example, I want to lose my weight. When will I lose my weight? When I am motivated to do so. So, this force or my motive tells me what to do and to what extent to go. In the similar way, look at the remaining examples and you only analyze those examples in the context of the definition. I am sure friends, you must have understood the definition very well with the reference of the examples which you analyzed. These definitions also give us some characteristics which are inbuilt in any concept. Here we are talking about the concept of motivation. Let us look at the first characteristic that is coming out from motivation. It says motivation is the means to achieve your goal and not the end. What we require here along with motivation is in efforts, commitment and then you lead towards success. Second characteristic talks about motivation leading towards the demonstration of any particular activity. For example, in a race, people standing at the side of the race course keeps on motivating people saying buck up, fast, buck up, fast. What happens in that? When these words are heard by the runner, he speeds up. What is this? He gets motivated to win and that's why he reacts in that particular way. Look at the third characteristic. It says that motivation molds your behavior. This reminds me of Sachin Tendulkar. Don't you think what behavioral patterns given in this third characteristic exactly applies to Sachin Tendulkar? Fourth characteristic talks about motivation affecting mentally, physically, socially and in many aspects of personalities. It may be positive or negative. So, how you get demotivated or you get motivated, that is circumstantial. As I said earlier, motivation is driven by needs or motives which can be different for every individual. Look at the example given. Some would like to pass because they want to always get highest rank. Some would like to pass because parents will give them compliments. Look at these examples and you will understand it better. So far we were talking about the characteristics of motivation. Do you realize that motivation we were discussing can be categorized into two types? One is intrinsic motivation and other one is extrinsic motivation. As these names suggest, one is from within and one is from external factors. Look at the pictures and you will understand it better. One interesting example, if I ask you to categorize in which type it will come under, that is Ekalavya from Mahabharata. You guessed it right, it is intrinsic because he was intrinsically motivated to master archery without the presence of his guru. Let us differentiate between these two types in terms of engagement and reward. Reward is inherent task in intrinsic motivation, for example satisfaction, and you feel good feeling you have when you are intrinsically motivated. But in case of extrinsic motivation, rewards are the external factors like praises or awards that a person wants to achieve. Intrinsic motivation leads an individual to get engaged into the task for his own self, his desired wish. But in case of extrinsic motivation, that engagement is for a desirable wish, because somebody else from the external factor tells you to do something, you are motivated. I think we have clarified and we are very clear about these two types. Look at these two definitions which are self-explanatory and you will understand it in a better way. As the definition says, intrinsic motivation occurs when a person feels like doing it. For example, learning because of curiosity or interest. The learner is himself or herself interested in learning, that is how the learning will take place. This is intrinsic motivation. As against intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation comes from the outer or some kind of rewards given by somebody else. So, it is an external factor that is responsible for extrinsic motivation to happen. For example, as I earlier said, it is reward or praise. Look at the situation or scenario which is given in this slide and you guess it whether it is intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation, or in what situation the same scenario can be converted into extrinsic motivation or intrinsic motivation. The teacher asked group of students to develop a simple model to present it in the inter-school competition, and students are enthusiastically working on the given project of developing a working model. Now look at the word working model. They are expected to make any model, simple model also could have gone for inter-school competition, but one group or the group, any group that has thought of making it a working model, then what type of motivation you will call for the second situation? You got it right, it is intrinsic motivation. But in the first situation, when they were asked to make a model for inter-school competition, then it is extrinsic motivation that will fetch them some kind of reward. Let us go for two more situations. I am sure these such situations will really motivate you to learn further about motivation. The first situation that talks about a doctor's daughter becomes the doctor because doctor parents want her to become. It's a very clear cut example of extrinsic motivation. But in the second situation, both the motivation types of motivations are embedded. Can you find out? Look at the character called Ramu. He is intrinsically motivated when he sings or recites poem only for his own satisfaction and enjoyment. Then it is intrinsic motivation. But if Ram wants to participate in a competition and he is reciting and practicing, definitely it is for some kind of reward, then it is extrinsic motivation. I hope you have clearly understood about the concept of motivation up to this. Let us proceed further in terms of a theory that is called as need based theory given by Maslow. Look at the hierarchy. There are two phases in that hierarchy. One phase talks about deprivation need and other phase talks about growth need. As we have already understood that needs are the motives. So it is very much related to the motivation, and that's why it is Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs or motives. Let us see the interrelationship of these two phases. I will give you one example from Vedanta era. Now Ved literature were created after Aryans came to Saptasindhu, satisfied their basic needs and settled down there. Later on, when they satisfied all their basic needs, then they thought of doing something that comes to the second phase of need according to Maslow, that is growth need. So at the very base of the hierarchy, you find basic needs, bodily needs. If I am hungry, I can't think of anything, any reciting of poetry or learning about motivation, isn't it? So I need to satisfy my hunger first, then only I can think of everything else. So that is a very basic need. Then comes safety needs, that is my security, my protection from physical harm or emotional harm. Those needs need to be satisfied, then only an individual can go ahead for his social needs. That is like Aryans did, they settled down at Saptasindhu. So they created the society and then they started getting affection, love, family, everything, and then they could think of the esteem needs, that is self-respect, autonomy, status and recognition. I do that because I want to become so and so. That is my esteem needs. Now what is left? An individual automatically goes to the second phase, that is called as growth needs. Here self-actualization comes. Can you think of any personality that is very close to self-actualization? Self-actualization is like a goal. We can't reach goal, but we can make efforts to go as close as possible towards that goal. So self-actualized person, finding such person is little difficult. But if you look at some examples where we can talk about maybe Ekalavya, they were all self-actualized people. So what is that? Which type of motivation that can take you towards self-actualization? Definitely intrinsic motivation. So first, through extrinsic motivation, you go towards intrinsic motivation, and that takes you towards self-actualization. Now we have seen different levels of hierarchy of needs. These 5 levels of need define the process of motivation at each level. It means you talk about any level, basic need level, there is a process. The same process is repeated or followed in all levels, even at the pinnacle, that is self-actualization. Let us see what is the process of motivation. The very first stage of process of motivation is unsatisfied needs and desires. Do you remember Gautam Buddha's teaching? He always said that the main cause of dissatisfaction or unhappiness is your desires and wishes. The very first stage in the process of motivation is unsatisfied needs and desires. These unsatisfied needs and desires drives a person towards doing something. So if a person is hungry, so he will make efforts to get food. If person wants to do something and that is the compulsory task to be completed in a time frame, the person will make efforts. So this is the very first stage of motivation. What happens when you are hungry? You want to get food. What happens to your state of mind? You become a little tense. That is the tension, and that is the second stage of motivation. Assignments to be completed in a given time frame. How much difficult it is to do your assignment in a given time frame. When I say difficult, it means I am talking about I am tense. I will have to complete that in a given time frame. So this tension is taking me towards making some efforts. My process goes to the third stage. What will I do? To complete my assignment, I am tensed, so I will make efforts. I will plan it accordingly and I will try to do it in time. So I take action. So this is my third phase of motivation. Fourth stage of motivation is goal accomplishment. I made some efforts and I have achieved what I wanted to. So that is the fourth stage of motivation. But here the level of accomplishment depends upon your earlier stages. How much tension you have taken, whether it is too much tension for you or too less attention for you. That will depend whether your goal is accomplished according to your desired wish or according to the desirable outcome that is expected from the external factors like your teachers or the principals. If you look at the last phase of the motivation, you will find, or you may be surprised to see feedback. Feedback to whom? In the process of motivation, how come feedback be the part of this process? Feedback is to yourself. Feedback is for others. What type of reward you are getting? What type of accomplishment or feedback given by your teacher or the principal about your task? Or whether are you happy completely what you have done? That is your feedback based on your intrinsic motivation. So what type of motivation you are getting to accomplish a job? Feedback will be the determinant factor for that type of motivation. So friends, we have seen what is motivation, what are its different characteristics, what are its types, and the process of motivation at every level of Maslow's need-based hierarchy. I hope you find this learning more interesting and you get motivated to complete the given task. Thank you.